Marked as a curse by her own kind, she found grace in a stranger's hands. At dawn, when the salt plains shimmered like a sea that forgot its tides, Nara stood before the elders. The brand of burden had burned into her arm at midnight, iron, smoke, and exile before sunrise.
Take nothing.
She walked until the flats crumbled into wreck and ruin, a graveyard where ships slept half-buried in rust. The wind hissed low. Beneath a fractured wing, she crouched to outlast the storm. Then a voice came, soft as a bridge built in darkness. "Hey," said the human. "You're bleeding. Let me help." His name was Elias. His hands bore oil and callus, his eyes a quiet kind of steadiness. He washed the mark clean, unafraid of what it meant, and gave her water that tasted of copper and mint. His home was a broken transport, reborn as a shrine of tools, humming wires, and kettles that sang to the wind. "Why mend what's already gone?" she asked. "Because they're not gone," he said. "Just left behind." He placed a driver in her hand. "Hold this." The days shaped themselves around the rhythm of repair. She learned to listen for a motor's pulse, to persuade tarnished metal into motion. The brand softened, fading to a pale, quiet scar. Sometimes she forgot it existed. One evening, Elias led her to a cliff lined with wind harps. Their strings trembled, spilling sound like water learning to sing. "I want to build something that sounds like that," she whispered. "You will," he said, like a truth already written. News came with a scavenger. Her tribe had lost 3 condensers in a sandstorm surge. Their water was dying. Without towers, the desert would drink them whole. Nara stared toward the heat mirage that hid their camp. The music inside her went still. "They'll never take my help," she murmured. "They called me burden." "You are what you choose next," Elias said, loading a sled with spare blades and a new condenser throat carved from a harp shell. "Then we go." They crossed the night that smelled of frost and silence. Dawn found them above the tribe's hollowed tents. Spears lifted when they saw her. The eldest stepped forward, hair like bleached bone. "You were cast out," he said. "You cannot return." "I didn't," Nara answered, nodding to Elias. "I brought the wind." They began before judgment could speak. Elias braced the base as Nara climbed the crippled tower, her hands slick with dust and will. The storm came roaring early, its teeth full of sand. Law had no meaning in its mouth. She rethreaded the coils, fighting the gale that clawed her loose. Elias shouted through the wind, guiding her by whistle. The harp throat shuddered, then sang. A hum rose, first trembling, then alive. Blade spun. The condenser drank the storm's breath and bled water. Children filled bowls. Women pressed their brows to the tower's ribs. When Nara climbed down, shaking, Elias steadied her. Around them, her people stared, as if the word carved into her skin had changed its meaning. The elder approached, pride wrapped in sorrow. "The mark is law," he said. "And law cannot drink," she replied. He bowed his head. "Then stay, keeper of the tower." The offer was mercy wrapped in a chain. Nara looked to the condenser, still singing to the wind, to Elias's steady hands, and to faces damp with the water they once feared to waste as tears. Her fingers found the brand on her arm, warm, no longer burning. "I will not be your burden," she said quietly, "nor your servant. I'll return to trade, to teach anyone who wishes to mend what's broken. But I will not belong to your punishment." The silence that followed made the wind roar. The eldest lowered his head, a small, weary surrender. "Then go with the wind," he murmured. They left at twilight. The tower's hum lulled the camp to sleep. From the ridge, Nara listened. The song no longer belonged to the world's throat. It belonged to her own. Back at the transport, Elias opened a small box. Inside lay a narrow band of woven alloys, etched with quiet symbols. "We mark ourselves too," he said, almost shy. "Not with shame, with choice." He wrapped it over her scar. The metal warmed, not to wound, but to belong. "What does it say?" she asked. "It says builder," he answered. The word landed like truth returning home. Nara laughed, the sound breaking open the stillness. She led Elias to the wind harps, and together they strung new lines, strings tuned to a second voice. Night fell softly, and the twin songs wove together, something lasting, something human. In time, caravans came, drawn by the sound and the promise it carried. People stayed to learn. Nara taught them to shape identity not from what they lost, but from what they could repair. Sometimes she crossed the flats again, spools of wire coiled at her side, a kettle that remembered her tea. The tribe no longer raised spears. Some sent apprentices, hands open, eyes curious. The wind still belonged to no one. But hope, Nara found, could travel from hand to hand until it felt like home. At dusk, she reached for Elias's hand. The future, at last, had weight she wanted to carry. They left beneath a sky bleeding gold and violet, the tower behind them singing water into thirsting earth. Nara did not look back. Her heart had already chosen its ground. Back inside the salvaged transport, Elias lifted the box once more, his voice quiet but sure. "We mark ourselves," he said, "not with guilt, but with what we become." He slid the band across her arm, covering the scar. The metal's warmth spread like a vow, gentle, unbreaking. "What does it mean?" she whispered. Elias smiled, soft as sunrise. "It means builder." The word settled deep, heavier than exile, brighter than fire. For the first time, Nara laughed, free and whole. Together they tuned the wind harps anew, weaving songs that promised no ending, only beginnings. And when travelers came again, she taught them the same. That worth is not in the scars we bear, but in the hands that choose to heal.